in your opinion, what are the factors that limiting the growth of population? If you are observant enough, you will see that the question change here and there, but then the question some are contradict with each other. Yeah, one sometimes say that the human population is growing, but this question is say that what are the factors that limit the growth of human being? Okay, so I give you 20 minutes from now. 20 minutes, so 11:55. We are going to discuss we are going to share the answer. Okay, I want you to be written down in point form. Okay, each of you write 3 to 4 points, three to four limiting factors. Yeah. Okay, and then later I will call you up one by one, and I want you to share your answer. Okay, 20 minutes from now.
So can share screen the question?
Sorry, what is that? What is the question?
Can share screen the question?
Can what?
Repeat again the question.
I oh, you cannot see the question, is it? Oh, sorry.
You didn't share the screen.
Okay, okay. I share the question. Question 10.
Sir.
Hu Heng Dong, still absent, huh? Lu Jieming, Ong Kai Chen,
Here, sir.
why you're late today?
I
Tan
went.
Ching Shen,
Yeah.
Wong Chung Yi, Yong Zhi Ye. Kai Chen, you know what is the question that we are discussing or not?
The factor that limits the human population.
Yeah, the factor that limiting the growth of human populations, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Warfare.
drought, drought,
Okay, guys, have you finished with your discussions? Are you ready to share your answer now? Guys, have you finished with the question or not?
Sir, I'm here, sir.
Okay, let's share the question. Have you ready? Have you finished?
I think no.
Sorry, Kaiji, what do you
No.
say?
I think no. For
How long
me,
do you
it's
need?
no. I think it's about 5 minutes.
Okay, give you another additional 5 minutes.
Sir, I'm here, sir.
Yes, Xingchen. What is that? What are you talking about, Xingchen?
No, attendance.
I can't hear you.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
I'm here for attendance.
I can't hear you. Yeah, what is that? You are talking something?
Wait. Hello, sir.
Yes. Very clear now.
I'm here for attendance.
Oh, you come late, is it?
Yeah.
Do you know which question are we discussing?
Yeah, I asked them already.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, class, are you ready? You should be ready now to share your answer. Anyone that I didn't mark your attendance yet, who come late? No, all of you already mark attendance. All right, okay, who want to volunteer to share your answer first? Let's listen from Wing Liang. Yong Wing Liang.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, can. Come.
So in my opinion, I think that in the case of third world country, the human
Case of what? Third world country. Okay.
human population growth is limited by factors such as environment, firstly, low food supply and lack of medical welfare. Lack of medical welfare increases the death rates, and resources such as food and waters are lacking and are unable to supply the density of population. This directly results in increase of death rate and decreasing of birth rate. Next, moving on to the cultural changes. The cultural change is another factor that limits the growth of population. In the past century, women have lower social positions and tend to take care of household. However, in the 21st century, women's rights have really improved and they spend more time on their career rather than building up a family. Next is the pandemic. Pandemic is always a constant factor that limits human population growth. Evidently, from the past few years, disease such as SARS, COVID-19, H1N1, and etc. has robbed the lives of many humans. Vaccine may act as a countermeasure to a pandemic. However, as time passes on, new disease will appear again. Lastly, war is the last factor that will limit the growth of human populations. War is usually resulted from the difference between ideology and dispute on specific subject. Warfare tends to result in the death of not just merely combatants but even civilians as well. That's all for me.
Very good. But your last point, the war, beside the different ideologies, it is also lack of
Warfare.
resources. You remember when we're talking about this water war,
Warfare.
right? Then the King Hussein and this Saudi Arabia, they are saying that they would not go for the war unless it's for the water to protect their water resources. Okay, so the lack of natural resources is one of the factors that may create the war. Yeah, very good, Wing Liang.
Okay.
Keep it up. Okay, let's listen to Kashin.
Hello.
Hello, yes, Kashin.
Oh, okay. Food will be one of the factors that limit the population of certain area. As the population increase, the food they need to supply to the people increase as well. However, in some areas such as the North Pole and South Pole, there's limitation of food there. Due to the environment is very cold, plant and animal is unable to living there and limit the natural resources.
Okay.
Thus, the population of human being living there is not as much as the Asia area because there is not enough food there, so it will cause the death rate increase. So the population is not as high as the Asia area. Moreover, living environment factor will limit the population as well. People used to live in the area that is having a suitable weather and temperature. Besides, the suitable temperature and weather will allow more types of plant and animal living and hence increase the amount of natural resources. The higher the number of natural resources, the higher number of plant and animal living, the higher the population growth for human. For example, South Pole and North Pole, they are very very cold, not as much plant and animal are able to live, thus making the natural resources not enough to supply for the population of human. Lastly, disease is one of the factors limiting population of growth. Disease always carry off many people's life before they manage to cure. For example, cancer and COVID-19. That's all for now.
Okay, very good. Kaishan, keep it up. Let's listen from Yisi. Teo Yisi.
So, limiting
Can't hear you.
hello.
Yeah, okay.
A limiting factor is something that restricts the size of population and delays or prevent its growth. There are some limiting factors which are biotics. such as food, mates, and competition with other organisms for resources, while limiting factors which are abiotic are space, temperature, altitude, and amount of sunlight able in an environment. For intraspecific competition for food
You
and
see, this
mates
one
among humans.
you are copying down from the internet, is it?
No, I got type my own.
Okay, use your own sentence
Yeah.
to explain. Can you repeat it again?
For the competition for foods and mates among humans, as a population increase in size, food and mates will become a limiting factor. Some individuals will die because of starvation or lack of food. The birth rate of the population decrease because lack of mates. It will cause the population size stops growing and decrease due to the death rate from starvation increase. If an ability limited factor such as attitude which want to fight over because of survival because it was lack of food, this will cause a war, then the population decrease in size. That's all for my point.
It's a bit brief, and not enough food. You can also mention about there is not enough nutrition also, yeah, because nutrition is part of the food that we are looking for. All right, okay. Leong Ho,
Yes, sir.
can you speak
In my
louder?
opinion, so you can hear me?
Soft, I adjust
Ah.
first. I can speak volume. Okay, you keep on talking.
In my opinion, factor affecting the growth of human population is government policy. For example, one child policy in China is limiting every family in China only allowed to have one child only. Due to extremely large area in China, citizen distribution are not equal and this cause some place very rich while some place very poor. Sometimes it's very high possibility that children will die because lack of food and nutrition. Thus, this policy is used to prevent this problem happen. As we say, better not born than suffer. Next is the food supply issue. This the human basic need. Although food already implemented to until can come from many other different sources, but due to distribution of food are not equal, hence the problem of lacking food in poor country or area are not didn't stop. In rich place, food are always wasted, while in the poor area, is the problem of lacking food is still goes on.
Why it is wasted? Sorry.
Because they didn't appreciate the food for some the rich will always happen the problem.
This one is which country? Developed country or developing country?
I mean the rich place.
Okay, the developed country lah. Okay.
In fact, the growth for the population affected, and this happened also in China, in those poor area and the hillside. Thirdly is the health issue. Although modern medical technology are quite good, but it doesn't good enough for some disease. For example, COVID-19 from December 2019 until today, it already caused almost 3 million deaths. It's quite a terrible number. That's all from mine.
Okay, good. You are the first one talking about the government policy to control the population. Yeah, which is true that the government policy is also one of the limiting factors. Yeah, especially in China. All right. Jingsheng.
So I'm not really yet.
Later come back to you.
Okay.
You late by how many minutes just now?
20 minutes.
Wow, why you come in so late?
I forgot to check the time.
Okay. This is not replacement class, it's a normal class. You still also cannot remember. Okay. Come back to you later. Yeah,
Okay.
Yan Chan. So Yan Chan?
Hi sir, can you hear me?
Yes, can.
In my opinion, there are three factors that are limiting the growth of human populations, which is the first one, disease, second, the other humans, and the third is the environment factors.
Okay.
Disease is one of the factors that are limiting the growth of human population. Disease such as illness took people life before they managed to reproduce. Next is the other humans. Other humans also is one of the factors that limiting the growth of human populations. Humans' activities such as warfare will threaten the human populations. As the war will kill many humans, including childs, women, and guy. The last point is the environment factor. Natural disasters such as earthquake, drought, tornadoes, and cyclones will also threaten the human population as the natural disaster will take the life of an human. That's it for my point.
Okay, your point is okay, but your explanation is too brief. Yeah. Okay, why people go for war?
Fight for
Fight
their
for what?
needs.
Fight for their needs, fight for resources, and so forth, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Or as what one of you say that the different ideology or whatever. Okay, and then your first factor. What is your first factor already?
Disease.
Why people being killed before reproductions?
Because
you mentioned that, isn't it?
I mentioned the illness,
Yeah, you mentioned illness kill the people before they can reproduce, before they can give birth to baby. But the illness usually is kill not necessarily the young people, ma.
Mm-hmm.
So why it kill people and then before the reproductions?
Maybe society tend to get well prepared before they reproduce, and then this cause the society to reproduce late.
Sorry, I cannot get your meaning.
Means that society tends to reproduce when they are well prepared lah. Then this will cause society to have very will not reproduce and at the early age, at
So
a
late
young
marriage
age.
lah.
Yeah.
So and what is the relationship with the illness? This one?
I just pointing up the example lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. It's a bit too brief. You need to discuss in depth.
The explanation part. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, right. Yihang, why Yihang?
In my opinion, one of the factors that limit the growth of human population is human. This is because humans engage in direct combat over the territory. For the example is in the 20th century, the war was responsible for the untimely death of tens of millions of men, women, and children. So
which war are you referring to?
Which war referring to?
Yeah. And why people go for war?
Maybe because the territory problem and resources problem and something like that.
All right. So which war are you referring to? Is it World War II, First World War, or some other wars?
World War II.
Okay, continue.
Disease also is one of the limiting factors for human population. Because for most of the human history, we can't prevent the disease early before it happens. We need to spend a lot of time to find the solution to cover the disease, such like the COVID-19. a lot of people dead before the vaccine is invented.
Okay. Continue.
It's all my point.
I say 3 to 4 points, isn't it? You only mentioned about 2 points
Oh.
only, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Another last point? Think of it, huh?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, come back to you later.
Okay.
Or you already got the answer?
Haven't.
Okay.
Maybe you ask Jing Shen first.
Okay, Xingsheng, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, come, good.
Okay. In my opinion, one factor that limits the growth of human population is disease.
Mm.
As evidence, it can be seen in today's pandemic issue with the coronavirus, which has taken the lives of 3 million people and is still rising.
Mm.
Another example would be the Black Plague disease back in the 1300s, which has caused around 75 to 200 million deaths.
Mm.
The Black Death high death rate can be due to the lack of advanced medical technologies, whereby for the case of the coronavirus, symptoms were able to be treated before they were considered deadly, and also within a year, vaccines were made available already.
So,
Other
is
than
it
that,
still a limiting factor?
yes, it's still
Why?
because the death, even with the vaccines, death rate has not decreased
Okay.
greatly. Okay. Other than that, is the lack of food resource. The lack of food in a population causes people to starve to death and also starve up to the point of desperation, whereby they may turn to doing crimes just to secure themselves a filled stomach.
Very good.
Hence, it can be said that the lack of food resource has two ways of causing death, which is death by starvation and death through crimes.
Mm.
Lastly is the pressure and responsibility of modern society. It can be seen that the reproduction rate of successful countries is on the decline. This is due to the demanding work life of modern society, which requires great amount of commitment to survive. As a result, it causes some people to suicide due to the built-up stress and also avoid from producing offsprings, do not have additional commitment and responsibility. Some examples of these countries is Japan and Korea. That's all for my point.
Okay, very good. You took how many minutes to construct out this answer?
10-20 minutes.
Okay, good. Because you came late, right?
Yeah.
All right, good. So you do not take we shouldn't take too long times to construct with the answer. Okay, Yihang, Xingsheng have done already. Now your turn.
Okay. I think for my point, one of the factor is the natural disaster, like the tsunami, earthquake. For the example is the Japan in 2011. Almost 20K people dead caused by the tsunami and earthquake. Yeah. This caused the limiting of survival space and affect the. This also caused the limiting of survival space and affect the human health.
Okay.
And also will cause the food become limited.
That's all, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Sherwin?
Hello.
Yep.
In my opinion, the limiting factors of the growth of human population includes the living necessities of a human being, such as food, nutrients, or water supply. These resources are finite and limited, yet renewable in the short term, and are able to provide only a certain number of population for a certain time. Next will be
Sherwin, again, your point again. I didn't get you. Can you repeat your point again?
The whole one.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the limiting factors of the growth of human population includes the living necessity of a human being.
What is the living necessity?
Food.
Necessity, is it? The thing
Necessity.
is that-
Sorry. Necessity.
Okay.
Such as food, nutrients, food and nutrients. These resources are finite and limited, but renewable. Can only end.
Finite and renewable.
Sorry. I think their meaning contrast. I may have messed up the. What I want to say is it's limited in a short amount of time, but they can still how to say, we can still produce over
a longer
long time.
period of time.
Over
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't
So-
put limited and renewable together,
Okay.
because they are contradicting with each other, yeah.
And can only provide a certain amount of human beings in
Can we produce a certain limit amount of human?
No, can only provide can only provide for a certain amount of human population.
Okay.
Yeah. Next is a country's state of economic and politics condition also limits the human population growth as well. This affects the decision of a married couple in a scale of regular living, whether to conceive a children or not. For example, China has implemented the one-child policy back in early 1980s, affecting the overall affecting the human population growth. Finally, diseases the death of teenager can be a limiting factor in
What
the
is
growth
that?
of the death.
The death of teenager.
Yeah, the death of teenager can also be a limiting factor in the growth of human population as well.
Why the
Accident.
death of limit of teenager?
Huh?
Why is the death of teenagers? Usually the fatality rate of teenager is not so high, right? You're talking about DEATH, is it that?
Yeah.
But why teenagers?
Because their date lead to they cannot develop into adults.
Is
Then
it happen in the world?
eventually, yeah.
Is it happen? Is this thing happening?
I'm not sure. This is just my opinion.
If you're talking about that rate, then is the early childhood, the baby is even more serious than teenagers. Usually teenagers, the death rate is very low.
Okay.
Yeah, continue.
But that's my third point. So.
Oh, that's your third point.
Yeah.
Okay, think of another point. Come back to you later, Sherwin.
All right.
Okay, Mei Lin.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The factor that limiting the growth of human population is environmental factor. The environment is one of the main factors affecting human population growth. Human reaction to and manipulation of the environment either lessen or exacerbate the problem. Hunter-gatherers utilizing only the nutrition naturally growing in the form of plant life or roaming in the form of animal life in a given area suffer nutritional deficit that affect their ability to withstand disease, sustain fertilities, and feed their young. Next, disease also is one of the factors limiting the growth of human population. Disease has always been one of the biggest limiting factor for human. For most of human history, people had no way to fight infection such as H1N1 and COVID-19. Then illnesses carry off many peoples. This helplessness was frequently exerted by pure understanding of sanitization and personal hygiene. Moreover, food supply also as limiting factor. In nature, when the population size is small, there is usually plenty of food and other resources for each individual. When there is plenty of food and other resource, organism can easily reproduce, so the birth rate is high. As the population increase, the food supply or the supply of another necessary resource may decrease. When necessary resource such as food decrease, some individual will die. Overall, the population cannot reproduce at the same rate, so the birth rate drop. This will cause the population growth rate to decrease. So that's all for my point.
Okay, good. Kai Chen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kai Chen or Kai Shen? How to
Kai
pronounce?
Chen.
Kai Chen, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the factor that limits the growth of human population is disease.
Mhm.
There were there were a few serious diseases that has carries many human lives, such as SARS, and now is COVID-19. This helplessness was frequently happen is because of the less awareness of personal hygiene, and this may cause the deafness to human. The next factor is food supply. Some poor country like India or Africa, they are lack of food supply. In those countries, their birth rate are high, but similarly their death rate are also high. This is because of when the population are small, there are plenty food and other resources, and they could easily reproduce. So the birth rate is high. So as the population is increasing, the food supply and other resources may also decrease. And when the necessary resources such as food decrease, some individuals may die, and overall the population cannot produce at the same rate, so the birth rate drop. And this population, sorry. No. Error. Last but not least is education. If parents wanted to let their children study until graduate from university in Malaysia, it may cost about 50k ringgit Malaysia, and this might be a burden to some families. Therefore, the cost of raising a children provide an incentive to reduce the family size. Yeah, that's all for my point.
What do you mean by incentive to reduce the family size?
Uh, it may act as a factor that in the family planning. Yeah.
Factor and incentive are two different things, you know.
Oh.
Incentive is something that you give to encourage people to do.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. So Wei Hong?
Yes.
Yes, come Wei Hong.
In my opinion, factors limiting the growth of human population is people nowadays are busy with their job to raise family. Their work-life balance is no balance anymore. They have no time to give birth, so the population is limited. Next, government policy may affect the human population. For example, a few years ago, China government implemented the one-child policy. Each family can only have one child, so this may also affect the population. Besides, high education is also one of the factors limiting the growth of human population. A survey proved that higher education countries like Bulgaria have seen their population fall from 9 million in 1990 to about 7.3 M today. They more more emphasis on education. So this is one of the factor limiting the human population. Another factor limiting the growth of human population is climate and geography. The extreme weather and inappropriate geography may affect the agriculture sector. Problems such as lack of food resources may cause death, and the human population the human population may affected. So that's all for me.
Okay. All right. Han Xiang?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello.
So, in my opinion, the growth of population is limited by human factors. For example, nowadays, the modern society tends to be more busy and stressful with their daily life tasks and also living with an unhealthy lifestyle. According to a medical research, if a person is under stress for a long period, this situation will affect the ability of the person in terms of reproducing. Besides that, the humans' activities such as warfare will also greatly reduce the population size. The next factor that will affect the population growth is the natural disaster and also the disease.
Yeah.
For example, natural disasters such as earthquake, tsunami, typhoon will take away many lives. And in terms of disease, for example, nowadays the COVID-19 is spreading widely and also take away about 3 million of lives. Lastly, the economy is also one of the factors that limit the growth of the population size. This is because sorry sir, I miswrote something. Economy is also one of the factors that limit the population size because modern family tends to the living standard of the modern society is much more higher compared to before, and the resources is also limited. Therefore, family nowadays tends to plan for their family planning and also birth control. So this action will also reduce the growth rate of population. That's all from my point.
So how does this control of birth rate relate to economy?
This is because nowadays the living standard is high, so the cost of raising a child until he or she has their own ability to survive, it may cost a lot of money.
Okay, yeah. So you need to explain why, because otherwise people may not understand what are you saying. You cannot see the link there, right? Okay, good. Okay. Just now I say come back to Sherwin, right? The third point.
Yes.
Yes, come.
Finally, I think that large scale accident is also one of the limiting factor in the growth of human population.
How frequently happen a large scale accident?
Beirut, I'm not sure. I think it's called Beirut explosion. Last year.
How many people has it killed?
But for that one, it's just 160.
Yeah, so that is very minimal.
Yeah, no. I'm also referring to the 9/11 incident. Also the Chernobyl incident also killed, but it kills in the side effect where Chernobyl infects people with cancers. In fact, around 4,000 people where the nuclear power plant exploded. Yeah, where 9/11 attacks killed around 2,000. Yeah, 2,960.
So that is not large scale accident. That is terrorist attack.
Oh.
All right. So when you compare the figure 7 million of human being and a few hundred or few thousand people dying, that is very minimum. Okay. But you're talking about Chernobyl one, yes, I may be able to accept it because it is not only affecting these generations, that is causing some damage to the gene. Then the next generations will be affected. Yeah. So the scale of affected people will be much more higher. Okay.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You get it?
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Okay.
that's it
Okay.
for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. So class, before we end the class today, any question? Do you find that this type of question is easier to answer? Okay, any question before we
No.
end the class?
Okay, no.
Okay. So if no question, then we end the class here. Thank you, class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.